And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Juan2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So this is our second of two preview videos for the New York Mets offseason, particularly with free agency. In our first video, we talked about the position players, who the Mets' upcoming free agents are, who's arbitration eligible, and who's out there on the market that they might look to target. So today we're going to talk about the pitching. Now, most of the talk around Mets free agency has been about, will they keep Pete Alonso and will they sign Juan Soto? But if you look a little bit closer, the real thing to focus on here is pitching, because the Mets have a lineup. They've got the good foundation of a lineup. Certainly it needs a little bit more help, but the Mets they're going to need some pitching, and a lot of it. The Mets are going to risk losing 37% of their innings once Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, and Jose Quintana all hit free agency. And we know not all three are coming back. I think one, maybe two will. But remember, the free agent market is full of a lot of very good options. The thing with this is David Stearns typically does not make a ton of long-term commitments to pitching. And I can't totally blame him for that, because you never know when pitching will wear out. So let's look right now at the rotation and what exactly is there and who the free agents are. So we know this. The Mets have Kodai Senga coming back. He's like pretty much the one certainty. I'm going to get into some of the pitchers that the Mets have who are arbitration eligible. But the minor league guys, they're coming up, but they all seem to need a little bit more seasoning. Brandon Sproat, Blade Tidwell, Mike Vassell. You know, they kind of plateaued a little bit at AAA, especially Tidwell and Vassell. And then you got some younger guys like Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong. They'll be in Binghamton. So it's really a situation where I think the Mets are going to need 3 to 4 starting pitchers that they're going to have to sign. Because let's be honest, you typically need 8 to 9 starting pitchers to get through a season. Right now, the Mets have one absolutely locked in, and that's basically it. A couple arbitration-eligible guys and a lot of free agents. So let's talk about this with some of the free agents the Mets have. The first one we have to talk about is Sean Manaea. He's entering his age 33 season. He just pitched the most innings of his career, but as it was talked about endlessly, he made that change to his pitching motion, more of a sidearm delivery from the left side, made a huge difference. Over his final 18 starts, pitched to a 3.02 ERA, and he really emerged as the ace and the staff leader of this team, and he emerged as our tribal chief. Acknowledge him. Yes. He is really, I think he's going to get at least a good 3-year contract. 2 years, I don't think that's going to be enough. I think he's going to get 3 years. I feel like the Mets need him, and I think I would offer him about $55 million total. 60, I think, is about where I would cap it. I can't quite say that I trust him to be quite as great next year as he was this year, because I think that Manaea, I think the change that he made is sustainable, but I don't think I could go past 20 million. So, but Manaea has given every indication he wants to stay. He is, when asked about if he wanted to stay, he said it would not take too much convincing. Those were his words. So Manaea is who I really hope they keep. Luis Severino made 31 starts, pitched 182 innings, 3.91 ERA. Very good season. I don't think the Mets are going to issue him the qualifying offer. It's really a toss-up. All right. He made, I think he made $13 million this year, and the qualifying offer is 21. So that would be a big increase for a 1-year deal. And then, you know what? If he does reject the qualifying offer, then another team could come in, and then the Mets could get a little bit of draft compensation. So, you know, maybe it does make sense to do that. Maybe it does make sense to make him an offer. You know, he loves New York. You know, he could pitch in New York. You wonder about the durability, because he has had those issues in the past, but he was very healthy this year. So that is very encouraging. As far as Jose Quintana goes, well, he's going to be 36 on opening day. He makes his living getting batters to chase off-speed pitches out of the strike zone. Only 44% of the pitches he threw in 2024 were inside the strike zone, yet he still had a 3.7 ERA and a 2.77 ERA over the final 18 starts. He was brilliant in the wild card series and division series against the Brewers and Phillies, respectively. But unfortunately, the Dodgers had enough plate discipline where it did not work out. That's why he was ineffective in his one start against LA. If he's willing to take a 1 to 2 year deal again, then I'd be willing to bring him back as sort of rotation depth. But you know what? I would give him the chance to explore other opportunities. If he wants to come back, I'd make him an offer. But I can't say he's anywhere near a top priority. Now with the bullpen guys, Brooks Raley and Drew Smith are both free agents. I'm going to lump them in together because they both underwent Tommy John surgery. And so Raley got hurt in late May. Smith didn't have his surgery until July. The Mets could sign both to maybe say minor league deals and allow them to continue their rehab processes with the organization, stay in Port St. Lucie. There's no risk to doing that. I mean, if they're willing to come back and rehab with the Mets, hey, you know what? Maybe they are back for the playoff stretch. You never know. They could be back in late 2025, really, especially because one thing the Mets really lacked once he went out was an effective left-handed relief pitcher. They didn't really have that. It was Alex Young. It was Danny Young. They did what they could. There's probably one or two others that we've all forgotten about. They had to put David Peterson. He was the only lefty in the bullpen, really, that they came even close to trusting. And he was starting as well at times. So the Mets really need a Brooks Raley or a pitcher similar to him in the bullpen next year. Ryan Stanek, definitely an arm to bring back. He has been one of the best postseason relievers in baseball over the last 5 years. And if you really look at who the best Mets were in the playoffs, Stanek's got to be in your top 3 or 4, right there with Lindor and whoever else. But the Mets, outside of Edwin Diaz, not a lot that you really have as far as proven commodities go. I would like to bring Stanek back. Now, with the Mariners last year, he wasn't good. 4.36 ERA in 46 games. And with the Mets, wasn't good either. His ERA was over 6. The biggest thing there was walks, 25 walks in 55 innings. But after the trade, only 8 walks in 16 innings. So he that wasn't too good. But when the money's on the line, he delivers. So Stanek would be very interesting. Phil Maton. I know a lot of Met fans are down on him right now because it didn't work out well in the playoffs for him. He was just out of gas, in my opinion. The Mets have an option on him for $7.75 million. They got him from Tampa Bay. And you know what? It's only a $250,000 buyout. He's going to be 32 on opening day. With the Mets, his ERA was just 2.51 over 31 appearances. Again, walks were an issue with him in Tampa, but Jeremy Hefner and his staff helped to really reduce those walks. I think he just ran out of gas. I'd like to try to keep Maton for a year if we could. Adam Ottavino, I didn't expect him to come back, and it didn't go well. Time to move on. Now, they have a lot of arbitration-eligible pitchers. They actually have 5. So I'm going to mention those really quick. By the way, arbitration is for players with between 3 and 6 years of service time. It's a way for them to negotiate higher salaries based off its historical comps. Of course, there is always the risk of getting non-tendered. Now, first of all, Paul Blackburn. Well, he's coming back from that spinal fluid leak, I believe it was. You know, the Mets made the trade for him with the intention of keeping him to have a little rotation depth for 2025. The expectation is he's going to be ready in right around the end of spring training. I would still keep him for a low salary. Tyler McGill, you know what? He could be frustrating at times, but he's had his moments when he's on as well. I would look to tender him. David Peterson absolutely had the best season of his career after hip surgery. He became a horse for the Mets in that rotation. I think you have to pretty much go into 2025 with the expectation David Peterson is part of your rotation. Alex Young, Sean Reed-Foley are the other two. I think I'd probably let them go. I don't think I would tender them a deal at this particular point. Reed-Foley has been dealing with some injuries. Alex Young, just another guy. So I think I would probably let them go. Now, the Mets have already made 2 signings. They signed Dylan Covey, a relief pitcher, to a major league deal. He missed most of 2024 with a shoulder strain. He did come back for a little bit in late July with the Philly organization, had a 2.66 ERA in 20 minor league innings. In 2023, had a 3.77 ERA. And this is the kind of move that David Stearns likes to make, whether it's Jorge Lopez, Shintaro Fujinami, those one-year deals for guys who have been effective in the past but are coming off an injury-plagued year or one ineffective year. So Covey already has a major league deal with the Mets. So that's a piece. Let's see what he does. They also signed Chris Davinsky to a minor league deal. Now, he is a veteran of 9 major league deals with a 3.98 ERA over 400 career innings, I believe it is. He was with the Astros on their 2017 World Series team. Appeared in 5 of Houston's 7 World Series games that year, was the winning pitcher in Game 2. But he went elbow surgery in 2020. He's never quite been the same. He's had a 6.13 ERA in the 4 years since. Last year had a 6.75 ERA for Tampa Bay. After Tampa Bay let him go, He pitched with the Mariners organization, was in AAA Tacoma, and he started to turn around a little bit. 23 appearances, his ERA was 2.35. So again, another sort of reclamation project that the Mets are going to bet on that they can make a big difference with. Now, there's a lot of very interesting free agent targets. The marquee one is Corbin Burnes, who was with the Orioles most recently, but was with the Brewers for a long time. So David Stearns knows him. And Burnes would give them, I would say, one of the few legitimate and durable aces that are in the game right now. And remember, when you're dropping $180 million worth of payroll, there is a whole lot of money to go around. And I know people are going to talk about Soto and Alonso, but you really need somebody to I'm not saying you need an ace to win a World Series. You don't. But either your starting pitching or your relief pitching has to be reliable. One of the two. Look at the Dodgers. They lost 4 or 5 starting pitchers, but their bullpen was so deep that it made the difference. So if you're willing to do that, go get Corbin Burnes. Outside of that, you know what? Garrett Cole, believe it or not, he has an opt-out. He could opt out of his deal with the Yankees. Would he come across town to the Mets? I don't see it happening, but just something to think about. A couple other guys, Jack Flaherty was with the Dodgers, was with Detroit earlier. Nick Pivetta has been pretty good over the last few years. Shane Bieber's interesting, but he just had Tommy John surgery in April. So if you sign him, you're not going to see him until probably the second half of the year, unfortunately. So not a ton of starting pitching options. So you might even explore the trade market. And the one I would look at is Garrett Crochet of the White Sox. He's still young. You've got 2 more years of control. He's making only $3 million this year. Now, you're going to have to dip into your prospect pool. You'll have to trade, I would think, maybe like a Brett Beatty. It might even cost Brandon Sprode, who I do not want to trade. But I could see one of the top prospects going, like an Acuna or a Williams, going back to the White Sox. It would hurt, but you'd have somebody who could really anchor that staff alongside Kodai Senga for the foreseeable future. So I think Garrett Crochet is going to get moved over the offseason. I think the Mets are going to be in on that, especially if they lose out on Corbin Burnes. Now, in the bullpen, you've got some options. Clay Holmes, he's out there. I would not want him as my closer, but he can be effective at times. Dylan Floro, Kirby Yates, who's been with the Padres, with the Braves. Jose Leclerc was an all-star not that long ago, but his career has fallen off. Tommy Kahnle, another ex-Yankee, but you never know. Tanner Scott, you know what? I was the biggest critic of Tanner Scott for a long, long time, but he had an unbelievable season. He's about to hit the market. Maybe the Mets want to have that tag team with Scott and Diaz, sort of that lefty-righty combo. So maybe that happens. A.J. Minter, been a good lefty in Atlanta for a while. Caleb Ferguson, another lefty with the Dodgers. So the point is there are a lot of good bullpen arms that are out there on the market. And even though the Mets do have to make some decisions as far as their lineup goes, they really need the depth both in the rotation and in the bullpen. I want to see them sign 3 in each. 3 starters, 3 relievers. That's what I'm really looking for. They might even be minor league deals. They might be reclamation projects. But you know what? Get me some depth, because by the end of the season, the Mets just didn't have reliable arms in the pen. They were using the same 3 or 4 pitchers every night. Half that bullpen barely even got used in the entire postseason. So let's see what happens. But Monday is when everything is going to start to really happen, and you can negotiate with other teams. It's going to be exciting. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. And also check out the position player video if you haven't already. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.